Hey, this is Dr. Josh Matthews, and today we have episode 11 of my series, What Makes This Movie Great? The movie is Werner Herzog's documentary, Grizzly Man, coming up next. Grizzly Man is a 2005 documentary by Werner Herzog, who is a great filmmaker all around, and I have a video on his top 10 movies. Herzog loves to explore the lines between sanity and insanity, civilization and madness, and I think in this case of Grizzly Man, he found maybe the best subject matter he's ever dealt with. Somehow he came across a treasure trove of films by the environmentalist, sort of activist, Timothy Treadwell, who in the 1990s and the early 2000s went up to Alaska living illegally in a national park with grizzly bears in their habitat. Treadwell took about 100 hours of footage of himself living by himself over the last 5 years of his career in Alaska. And Werner Herzog takes that footage plus interviews from people who knew Timothy Treadwell to explore why Treadwell was up there with grizzly bears, why he was making movies, how he could even have done what he did, which is basically to make friends with the grizzly bears, coming very close to them, sometimes even petting them, naming them names, and talking wildly and gushingly about how much he loved them. Herzog uses this documentary to explore not just why Treadwell would make movies, but why people don't fit into civilization and end up doing what Treadwell did, which is to move into the wilderness, live with the animals, and try almost to be like a wild animal. At the beginning of the documentary, we know that Treadwell has been mauled by the paws of a grizzly bear. He died along with a girlfriend who was living up there in Alaska with him. And so a lot of the commentary in this movie is about the value of his work. Some people believe that Treadwell got what he deserved. He acted like an animal, therefore he got eaten like an animal. Other people believe that he went over the line, the hard line between what's human and what's wild animal. But some of Treadwell's friends find him to be a complex, interesting human being who could be a friend, who could be a companion. And so you get in this documentary a diverse, almost incoherent array of views about Timothy Treadwell. As well, you get footage of Treadwell himself acting in front of the camera, and then you get Herzog's narration coming over the top, layered on top of, oftentimes, Treadwell's footage.
All these majestic creatures were filmed by Timothy Treadwell, who lived among wild grizzlies for 13 summers.
And one of the very simple contrasts in this movie is between Treadwell's absolute love of the animals, his belief in an Eden-like environment up there in Alaska, almost a Disney World-like environment where he makes friends with foxes, he makes friends with bears, and he calls himself a kind warrior at one with the animals. Contrast that with Herzog's view. Herzog believes that nature is chaos, that when you stare into the eyes of the grizzly bear, you get pure madness or pure carnality. The bear, in other words, all it wants to do is eat you. You can't commune with the bear, you can't begin to know it. Treadwell believes he can know the bears. So the viewer is immediately confronted with how humans should deal with nature. Nature with a capital N. Can humans tame nature? Can humans live along with other creatures? What does it mean for humans to be stewards or caretakers of nature? It's very clear in this movie that Treadwell doesn't fit into civilization, but of course he doesn't fit into the wilderness environment of the bears. And so although no one seems to understand him, it is pretty obvious, I think, that he's going out into Alaska shooting footage of himself, in part not just to do environmentalist efforts to save the bears, but in order to understand himself. He's a conflicted human being who used to be an alcoholic, but his trips into Alaska have reformed him. He has a hard time with women, and he talks about that openly on camera. You even wonder at times if he's gay or homosexual, and that topic comes up in the video itself. There's a lot to psychoanalyze about Treadwell, and I think a lot of viewers will mistakenly assume that he's just plain crazy. Yeah, maybe he is crazy according to the norms of civilization, but that's one of Herzog's points. What are the norms of civilization, and why are they the norms? What Treadwell is doing up in Alaska is extremely brave. I know very few men, even manly men, who would go up and confront a grizzly bear like Treadwell does. So he's both at the same time brave and delusional. He's courageous and yet crazy. And that makes the Treadwell footage alluring. If you were to make a YouTube channel of Treadwell, you would get millions of viewers because this footage is solid gold. I show this movie to students and they laugh at it, they're engrossed in it. They tend to tell me this is their favorite movie of the class. I always wonder why. I think it's just Treadwell being crazy on camera. I also think Grizzly Man explores why we take movies, why we make videos, what we're trying to accomplish when we make videos. We're trying to communicate with other people about our conflicted selves. We're trying to even understand ourselves. And Treadwell, as it turns out, is an artist. Herzog makes that very clear in the movie. Treadwell, it captures video that no one has ever captured before in amazing ways. Not even nature documentaries can do what Treadwell did. One of the reasons I say this about the tortured soul of Treadwell is a wonderful metaphor that Herzog brings up late in the movie. To get from civilization to the grizzly bear habitat in Alaska, Treadwell has to cross a massive glacial formation via plane. Herzog looks down at that glacial formation with its vast, huge crevices and its dark, mysterious undertones, and he basically says, well, that's like Treadwell's soul. When Treadwell is crossing from civilization to wilderness, he's going into the unknown. And I think one of the reasons Treadwell went up there to Alaska is, can he meet with the unknown, the mysterious, the things he cannot understand? Herzog is one of the greatest, maybe the greatest director exploring this very question. Can we ever know what's so mysterious that it cannot be understood? That includes our own nature. That includes death itself. Can movies help us understand our nature? Can they help us understand death? Treadwell seems to want to explore that, even though he's not consciously thinking about that. I also think this is a great documentary about religious devotion. And although Treadwell is not an adherent of an institutional religion, he is a religious figure. At least in this sense, he believes so ardently in his cause that he's willing to die for it. He repeatedly says over and over that he is fine dying. In fact, he wishes he could die in the Alaskan habitat with the bears. That's exactly what happens to him. As well, you hear in this movie him repeatedly say, I love you, I love you, I love you to the bears and the foxes and everything else in the wilderness. He really truly seems to love what he believes in. He's not a hypocrite. He doesn't go up to Alaska for money. He's a poor person. He doesn't even use his videos to gain celebrity or acclaim. He's kind of like a monk or an ascetic going into the wilderness to do what he loves to do, to serve the God that he loves. That's at once terrifying because the God he loves seems to be the grizzly bears in nature, but it's also admirable in that he's devoted to what he believes in. So at the heart of this movie is humanity's need to have religious devotion to something. And there are very few films, I think, that capture that need and depict it as well as Herzog's Grizzly Man. If you've seen it, please leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what you think of this movie. Thanks for watching. Please watch the rest of my content and please subscribe. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.